Today we're making some sourdough discard pie crusts. Right now I'm going to be making 2 crusts, and for each crust we're going to weigh out 125 grams of flour. So I'm weighing out 250 grams. And you can just use all-purpose flour for this. I really like the sifted artisan from Janie's Mill. It just gives a really great flavor. My favorite part about this recipe is we're going to make the whole thing in a food processor. Next, each crust gets a full 4-ounce stick of butter. So I'm adding 2 sticks, half a teaspoon of salt each, so a teaspoon total, and half a teaspoon of sugar each, 1 total. And now I just like to pulse this for 8 to 10 pulses or so until it starts to just get a somewhat sandy, crumbly texture going. You can still have big chunks of butter in here because we're going to pulse it one more time after we add our discard in. So here is what our final texture is looking like. For our sourdough discard, this is cold from the fridge, and I'm taking 125 grams per crust, 250 grams total here. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but the sound for the rest of this video cut out, so you guys get to hear my wonderful, lovely voice in this way instead. Once we get our discard into our pie crust, I pulsed it for another 8 to 10 times or so until it was a sandy, crumbly texture that just barely held together when I squeeze it with my fingers. You shouldn't need to add any additional water into your pie crust to get it to this consistency due to the amount of water that's in your discard, but if you do, you can start adding about a teaspoon at a time of cold water until it gets to this crumbly and sandy texture that just holds together when you squeeze it. Next, we're going to dump out the pie dough and squeeze it together, trying to work it as gently and minimally as possible because you don't want the heat from your hand to start melting the butter in the dough. And this step is optional, but I think it helps to create really wonderful, nice, flaky layers in your pie crust. I do a sort of faux lamination by dividing my dough into 4 pieces and stacking them on top of each other. Then I press them down and I divide it into 2 pie crusts, and I wrap them tightly in saran wrap and place them in the fridge for a week or into the freezer for up to 3 months. And just use them in place of regular pie dough for any recipe, really. They can go savory, sweet, whatever you like. It just makes a really delicious, flaky, and flavorful crust.